and broadcast on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. We're live on both platforms today. So we welcome you all here. If you're joining, good morning, Felicia Jenks, bright and early. Arnold Orkin, good morning. Please let us know if you're with us. Welcome, Bernice Krause. I saw Larry Cohen was online earlier. Larry, you were in the wrong classroom. So just leave that classroom and come back into this classroom. Boker Tov David Tureki from Israel. Mark Wachenheimer, Boker Tov, good morning. Larry Cohen, I see you're now in the right classroom. David Ginsburg. If there are students joining us on YouTube, please let us know that you're here. Morning, Melissa. Okay, we'll just give it a couple of minutes to allow for everyone to join us and log on. Robert and Maureen Levy, good morning. Thank you for being part of this. Manfred Kalmer, good morning. Wayne Miller, good morning. Good to see you again. It's a good chance to sort of get your head fresh. If you're logging on now, just let us know you're here with us. Thank you for being part of this. Or to give it Hilton Sawitsky, good morning. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. Yes, the two guests we had, the two soldiers we had sharing last night was extremely, extremely touching. So thanks for your feedback. Norman Stein, absolutely great idea. May we learn in the merit of all the soldiers who have given of their lives to Israel. Spot on. Alan Krause, good morning. Yes, appreciate the feedback. Thank you. We should only notify each other of simchas. Please God in the future. Thank you for joining our Learning Every Day. Faithful students we got here. Morning, Dennis Basarabi on YouTube. Thanks for being part of this. If you're logging onto YouTube, let us know you're here. If you're logging on to Facebook, we'd love to know you're here too. If you have a platform you're coming into, please let us know. Good morning, Linda. Thank you for joining. Jonathan Alon, nice to have you with us. Dave Block, good morning. Harvey Teller from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome back, Harvey. Thanks for that. Anyone else from overseas that's joining us this morning? Let me know. Israel, Australia. Don't know if the states are up just yet. Larry, thank you. Last night was fantastic. The program was amazing. Thank you for being part of it. Good morning, Shalom Triga. Again, if you're logging in on from overseas, we have Harvey Teller here from Melbourne. If anyone else is logging on, just let me know. Let us know from overseas. Otherwise, if you're coming in locally, we'd love to hear from you as well. Cape Town, or wherever else you may be coming from. Okay, we're going to start now. If you are watching on Facebook, it's easy for you to share this video. Just press share and let your friends and family know that you are watching, and hopefully they will come watching too. So today's topic, which I'd like to focus on, good morning, Ruth Kaplan. Today's topic I'd like to focus on and engage with you on is the laws and the lessons that we learn regarding the Kohen and the Kohanim in this week's Parshat Emor. We have some interesting laws relating to a Kohen and Kohanim, but what I want to really focus on is the messages and the lessons, the life lessons that we can take away from this. So I'm not really going to focus on the halachic side of things, even though that's going to be the foundation of our conversation. Good morning, Trevor Gerson. And we're not here to start teaching halacha for the Kohanim, but what I want to do is I want to take the lessons out of the practical lessons that we can learn and derive from the laws relating to Kohanim. Hopefully we can apply that to our own selves who may not be Kohanim. So if you're logging on now, let us know you're here. I see our numbers are going up on YouTube. If you're logging to YouTube, please do share that you're with us. Just put in the comments a good morning, greetings, just like Dennis Basarabi did a little earlier. We'd love to see your comments too coming through. And similarly on Facebook, we now have close to 30 students live on Facebook and close to 10 students on YouTube. So our classroom here is growing on our public forums, platforms. Thank you for being part of this. So what's interesting is that we find by the Kohanim interesting laws that relate until today. For example, the Kohanim aren't allowed to be in contact with a dead body. Laws of Tumah and Tahara, laws of purity and impurity. As Kohanim have it complicated when it comes to funerals, when it comes to hospitals. It's not so simple for a Kohen, because the Torah warns the Kohanim in this week's Parshat Emor, it warns the Kohanim that the Kohanim must remain pure and holy and not become contaminated by a dead body. And so visiting a hospital is complicated for a Kohen. Should the Kohen know and there's a dead body, a dead person in the hospital, they for sure can't go in. It's under one roof. And similarly, going to a funeral and standing under one roof with a dead body is also complicated. Walking under trees that hover over, that's called tumat ohel, the impurity of an ohel, of a tent. So there's different ways a Kohen can come in touch with a mace, a deceased, either by touching or by standing under the same roof. That's very complicated. I want to welcome Raylene Brask and Hilly Lipworth, who are with us on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. We've gone past 10 or just under, 10, 11 people on YouTube. That's fantastic. Live with us. So thank you for joining us. So that's the laws of Kohanim, and that affects Kohanim till today. That's one of the reasons why in a cemetery we prefer to bury Kohanim close to the road, so that the family will be able to access the kaver, the grave. Because if we're going to bury the Kohanim deeper within the cemetery, it's going to be difficult for Kohanim to actually get there. You know, they can't even visit their parents or their grandparents or their siblings or children, God forbid, because they don't have access to the kaver of the Kohanim who are buried deep within. So that's why we tend to prefer to bury the Kohanim closer to the road, closer to the entrance, closer to access, so that they can access the Kohanim's graves. And those laws, good morning, Cheryl and Diamond. And those laws, good morning, Mora Dworkin on YouTube. Thank you. And those laws apply today like they ever did before. Now let's understand that for a moment. Why are we applying, I don't know if any of you have thought about this, why are we applying the laws of Kohanim, meaning the impurities of Kohanim, and Kohanim not being in touch with dead bodies? Why is that relevant today? I mean, let's think. Why was it in the days of old that Kohanim had to be careful about where they were and where they went and who they came in contact with. The reason why Kohanim generally had to be careful was because Kohanim were going into the Bet HaMikdash, they were going into the temple. And the laws of the temple state that a Kohen who's become impure, Tameh, by coming into contact with a mace, with a dead body, can't come into the Bet HaMikdash. You can't enter the sanctuary, and you can't do the service properly. That's the law. That's why Kohanim generally weren't able to be in touch with the dead body because of the service in the Beis HaMikdash. And so the question is, why is it relevant to today? Today, Kohanim are not serving in the Beis HaMikdash, number one. Number two, today Kohanim are all considered impure. They've all been in contact with something that makes them impure. No one is considered pure today. When Mashiach comes, everyone's going to have to purify themselves. So therefore, why on earth are the Kohanim need to be particular about this? Something to think about. And something to question. And maybe I can just stretch the question a little bit. We know that there's another law of Kohanim that features in this week's parasha as well. And that's the law of marriages. That while a Yisrael, that means an average Jew, like me, there's no restrictions of whom we can marry as long as they're Jewish and not married, single, Jewish. I can marry them, right? There's no restrictions as to who I can marry and who I can't marry. But when it comes to a Kohen, suddenly there are some rules in place. Good morning, Aline. So when it comes to a Kohen, there are some rules in place which restrict Kohanim from marriage. What's the law? The law is that a regular Kohen cannot marry a Gerusha, a divorcee, but a regular Kohen can marry a widow, an Almana. The Kohen Gadol can't even marry the Almana, can't even marry the widow. He can only marry a Betula, a virgin who has never been married before. Now that itself is another question. Now, by the way, this law causes big complications because Kohanim, especially Kohanim who may not be religious or observant, whatever that means, often meet women who may be divorcees, and it causes complications when they realize that they can't marry each other. It's often common with second marriages. First marriages, when the Kohen is younger, chances are higher that he'll be able to find a single girl, not a divorcee, a single girl to marry. But when it's a second marriage, it's not so simple. And sometimes, and many times, the woman he bumps into and meets and communicates with happens to be a divorcee, and that causes big problems. And the question here is why are these laws in place? Why are these laws in place? Why is that an important law for Kohanim, which was applicable in days of old and is equally applicable today? How is that? Why is that so important? And why is it so relevant to the role of Kohanim? Good morning, Neil Herman. Thank you for joining us. And once again, just want to remind everyone, if you're logging on now, please let us know you're with us on either Facebook or YouTube. We'd love to know you're here and you're engaging and you're communicating. So thank you for all those who have already done so. So the interesting thing is that the Ramban, Nachmanides, gives an insight here, which I think is an eye-opener and a powerful idea. And the Ramban says that it's not just because the Kohanim would serve in the sanctuary, and therefore the Kohanim had to be pure, and therefore the Kohanim could not become Tameh impure by coming in contact with a mace, with a dead body. It's not just that. It's more than just the service in the sanctuary. Hypothetically, if a kohen was never going into Tush, says the Ramban, still this law about marriages and about a dead body and coming and contaminating oneself through a mace, through a dead body, is equally relevant, whether they go or not. Good morning, Michael Stein. And so the Ramban says like this: it's the issue of misa, of death, that is a problem. A kohen who's serving Hashem, a kohen who's involved and engaged in the avodas Hashem, the serving of God, he is living the life of servitude to Hashem, of serving God, of connecting to Hashem. That service of God is living, it's life, it's chayim. V'atem hadveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem chayim kulchem hayom. Meaning, when you serve Hashem, we are alive. And therefore, the Torah says that to the Kohanim, you are living people. And if you are living people, you can't come in contact with the dead, because the dead is the antithesis to what you represent. You represent service of Hashem. You represent closeness to Hashem. You represent the people of Hashem. You represent the chosen society of God. Stephanie Erdain, good morning. You represent life in its real sense of life. And therefore, Misa, death, can't be around you. And you can't be around death either. Because death is the antithesis, is the opposite of what you represent. Good morning, Avi. Shkoyach for joining. No problem. Thank you. And so the Ramban says, let's just highlight this fact. The laws of Kohanim of not coming to serve in the temple. Number one, that's very technical. Now, why can't you come in contact with the dead body? Because we want you to serve in the temple. And if you're impure, you can't serve in the temple. Okay. Second of all, why is it relevant today? Says the Ramban, the answer to both questions is it's more than just being contaminated for the temple. It's that life and death are you, the Kohen, represent life. You are the chosen society of Hashem. You are the servants of God. You are the ones who represent Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. Whether you go into the temple, you don't go into the temple, it's about your level of society. You are the living of society. And therefore death and Misa doesn't fit in. You can't come into contact with a dead body, because the dead body, the mace, the deceased, the concept of Misa is the antithesis of your living being. You are serving Hashem, you're a living being. And I thought to myself, when I came across this Ramban, Nachmanides, I thought to myself, what a powerful message this is for us. It's a powerful message. Because although we're not all Kohanim, and we don't all have these laws in place of what we can do or what we can't do, becoming tamei to a dead body or not becoming tamei to a dead body, living. The service of Hashem is living. We can't associate ourselves to death. What does death represent? Misa, we know, isn't just physical death. Death is a description of lack of motivation. Death is a euphemism or a description for apathy, no motivation, depression, opposite, distance from Hashem. That's death. It says that Rishoim, wicked people, are called dead. Wicked people are called dead. Paroi. It says regarding Paroi that Paroi died. A Russia is dead. A Russia who has no connection to the case of death. And maybe the laws of Tumah and Tahara of purity and impurity like the Kohanim do. But the message is clear. We are living beings. We are not dead beings. We can't associate ourselves to death because we're alive. That's the message. Kohanim do this by not coming into contact with a dead body. Even in today's times where everyone's impure, still don't associate yourself with a dead body because you are Kohanim. You are the living people of the Jewish people. But ultimately, we're all like that. We're all living people and we're all alive and we're all supposed to be living and disassociating ourselves and detaching ourselves from death. Death means apathy, lack of enthusiasm, feeling distant. Stay away from that. Life and death are so different. Life and death spiritually are so different. We don't want to be associated to death. We want to be associated to life. And life means meaning, and life means motivation, and life means purpose, and life means insight, and life means God, and life means Torah. And therefore stay away from that and don't connect yourself to distance from God, apathy from God, lack of enthusiasm, rasha and rishut and evil ways. That's death. We don't want that. Like the Kohanim, we don't want that. We want Chaim kulchem hayom. We want to be alive. Let's relate this to the other halacha that we learnt about the Kohanim. The other halacha was that a Kohen can't marry a grusha, a divorcee. That's something that's equal between regular Kohanim and the Kohen Gadol, is that Kohanim can't marry the grusha, the divorcee. Why can't a Kohen marry a divorcee? So the answer is, and this is without any offense to divorced couples and to a divorcee, without any offense. Good morning, Lionel Rubin. The reality is that divorce comes with conflict. Even a couple who says that they split up with peace, with respect, nonetheless, that split is conflict. We don't get along. We can't live side by side. That's the reality. As much as we respect one another, we need to split up. And so whether we do it peacefully or not, the concept of divorce means to break up. The concept of divorce means challenges, difficulty, conflict. And therefore the halacha says that a Kohen and a Kohen Gadol can't marry a divorcee. Why? Because a Kohen represents Shalom. The Kohen represents Shalom. That's what it says. The Yosem Lecha Shalom in Birkat Kohanim, in the Duchening. The Yosem Lecha Shalom, that Hashem will give you peace. Who says that? The Kohanim say that. They are the representatives of Shalom, of peace in the world. And therefore, the halacha behind not marrying one who has been divorced in the past is because divorce represents conflict and the Kohen represents peace. And the two don't get along. And I thought to myself, when learning that halacha again in the parasha this week, I thought to myself that this too is a powerful message. Because although we're not Kohanim, all of us, and although we may not have these rules of marrying divorcees or marrying widows, and that's not relevant to all of us, but the spiritual message is relevant to us. Just like the spiritual message of not being contaminated by death is relevant to all of us, so too marrying or not marrying, a divorcee is relevant to all of us. We don't want conflict. We don't want conflict. We stay away from conflict. We look for reasons of peace, of shalom bayit, of harmony. That's what we want. Obviously, we don't all have the choice about divorce, and divorce is an unfortunate circumstance and sometimes fortunate circumstance for a couple who need to go through this process. Absolutely. But the message we can learn is that just like the Kohen doesn't marry the divorcee because the divorcee represents conflict and the Kohen represents shalom, peace, so to all of us should strive and aim to have peace and love and harmony. If you'd like to engage and communicate with me on this topic, feel free to post your comments in the chat box, either on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, critique, compliments, whatever is in your mind. That's what I wanted to share. I want to move on to another topic, but just if you want to engage on this topic of Kohanim in touch with dead bodies and Kohanim not marrying the divorcee and the relevance and the relevant application to each one of our lives, please do let us know in the comments now so that we can address your questions or comments and share them with the class. So Jonathan Alon, thank you for sharing. Jonathan Alon has a good question. What about the Kohen physicians and coronas? Very good question. And aren't all of us engineered equally in the image of Hashem? Okay, so you're asking two separate questions. Very good, Jonathan. Good questions actually there. So let me just say like this, is that we are all equal in the image of Hashem. Absolutely. But we all carry different responsibilities. God created a diverse group of his people. Between Kohanim and Leviim and Yisraelim, he created a diverse group of people. And each group of people has a unique role. So yes, we're all equal. Kohanim and Yisraelim and Leviim are all equal. But the roles and responsibilities there are different. And that makes sense because, we're the army of Hashem. And in an army of God, there are different roles and responsibilities in an army. And so there are Kohanim who do their role, and Leviim who do their role, and Yisraelim who do their role. So we are all equal, but we carry different responsibility. In terms of your first question, what about Kohanim physicians and coronas? So first of all, I want to pay gratitude to all those on the front line. All those on the front line who are helping with the coronavirus, with ill patients, and offering them care and love. We are very grateful to you. Kohanim and non-Kohanim, Jews and non-Jews, we pay gratitude to you all. But the truth is, Jonathan, it's complicated with a Kohen physician. It's not so simple. And what I would suggest is that a Kohen who has the desire and the aspiration to study medicine and become a doctor, I would suggest that such a Kohen should consult first. Because there are complicated halachot about that. In terms of the coronavirus, look, if there was no one else around, it's called the met mitzvah. If there's no one else around, then the Kohen has the ability to contaminate himself with a dead body. But if there are other people around, other physicians or doctors who are able to attend to the dead body, then it's a different situation. And so it makes things complicated for Kohanim physicians who want to be doctors. And I would suggest that any Kohen that wants to become a physician or a doctor should consult with his rabbi and with that guidance approach such an aspiration or a dream, because it can be complicated. I hope that answers your question, Jonathan Alon. Thank you for sharing. Raylene Brask, thank you for your feedback on YouTube. I love this. I love when the students engage. So thank you very, very much for that. Maybe another thought that just relates to Kohanim, which I thought I'd share with you. And some of you may have heard this before, but nonetheless, it's worthwhile sharing, is a story that takes place in South Africa in, I think, the 1950s, 1960s. It was in the days of Rabbi Kosovsky, who was the Rosh Beis Din at the time. And Rabbi Kosovsky came across, Rabbi Kosovsky came across a phenomenon here in South Africa that he wasn't aware of or familiar with back in Lita, in Lithuania. And what he saw was that Kohanim who were driving to shul for Shabbos and Yom Tov, but in particular for Yom Tov, Kohanim were driving to shul and they were going up to Duchen, as Kohanim do. And this struck Rabbi Kosovsky because he hadn't seen that back in Europe, in Lithuania, that Kohanim who are driving to shul and then going up to the Duchen, to the Bima, to the Aron Kodesh to bless the community. And he thought to himself, this seems to be a little strange. You know, Duchening and blessing the people is a very, very holy activity. Surely it's inappropriate for Kohanim to be driving to shul on Yom Tov and then going up to Duchen, up by Kodesh, and to bless the community. So it bothered him. And he decided to write a letter to his brother-in-law, who was a Rav in Lithuania at that time, I think 1950s. And Reb Chaim Oizer was his name. That was his brother-in-law. And he asked Reb Chaim Oizer a shayla. He said, I came across a phenomenon that I'm not familiar with. We have Kohanim who are driving to shul on Yom Tov and then going up to the Aron Kodesh to Duchen. It seems inappropriate. Should I make a rule that only Kohanim who walk to shul on Yom Tov can Duchen? Right, and obviously those who drive will unfortunately not be able to Duchen. Mora Dworkin remembers him as a very special person. We're actually talking about Rabbi Kosovsky Sr. Rabbi Kosovsky Jr., who was a Rav at Sidlam Shul, just passed away last week or 2 weeks ago. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. And his father is the story that I'm referring to. So, Ruth Kaplan, I see your question. I'll come to your question in a moment. So, can I make a rule that only people who walk to shul on Yom Tov can duchen? And Reb Chaim Oizer, who had never met the South African community before, he had known about people moving here from Lita, but he never from Lithuania, but he never had been here before. He never had been involved in the culture and the living lifestyle of South Africa. He wrote a letter to his brother-in-law that's printed. And he wrote a letter to his brother-in-law that said, if you make such a rule, then families who can't walk are not going to come to shul on Yom Tov because they know they can't duchen. So if they can't duchen and bless the people, they won't come to shul. If they don't come to shul, he says, children won't know that they are Kohanim. Because how do Kohanim know that they are Kohanim? Is when their parents bring them to shul, when their father brings them to shul, and they duchen together with their parents, with their fathers. That's how they know. That's how they know they're Kohanim. But if I'm not coming to shul because I can't walk to shul, and therefore I'm not going to be able to duchen, and so I'd rather stay home, the children are not going to know they're Kohanim. And when they won't know they're Kohanim, that's going to cause a big, big problem. Because the Kohanim have restrictive laws of marriage, as we described, not marrying a divorcee, for example. And if they don't know the Kohanim, then they're not going to know who they can marry, who can't marry. And that's going to lead to a disaster in the community. And therefore, we are requesting, therefore, he says, I suggest to turn a blind eye. Let them come to shul however they come to shul. Turn a blind eye. And the main thing is they come to shul, they know they're Kohanim, and please God, they will grow through the process and become more shomrei and more observant and hopefully stop driving eventually and start walking to shul. That's the goal, obviously. But this way, at least the Kohanim will know they're Kohanim and will observe these laws. So I thought that's a powerful perspective and insight. And we've shared some of the laws that relate to Kohanim from this week's parasha, but I think the relevance of their laws is very relevant to us as well. Ruth Kaplan asks a question on Facebook. Ruth asks, what about marrying a convert or an adoptive child? Adoptive child also, I would imagine you mean adoptive child meaning a convert as well. And we know that Kohanim can't marry converts. That's true. And once again, we are setting a high standard for Kohanim. Kohanim, who are the people of Hashem, the servants of God, make sure that the reality is they keep a level and a standard higher than the rest of us. And so it's a sensitive topic because on the one hand, we elaborate on the power of converts and the uniqueness of converts. That's true. At the same time, we know that converts are also coming from a non-Jewish background. And when it comes to Kohanim, the people of Hashem who are the front liners of serving the Mikdash, the expectation is higher of them than the rest of us. I agree it's a sensitive area and sensitive topic, but hopefully that explains the concept. On the other hand, we do, Yisraelim, and the rest of us are encouraged and welcome to marry like we marry Yisraelim. So answer addresses. I don't know if it answers your question, Ruth, but it addresses the point that you mentioned. Is there anybody else that would like to share or comment on this conversation? Thank you, Dave Block. Appreciate that. Can someone else comment or share? We'd like to hear from you. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye and log off. And we wish you a safe day ahead. Make sure you keep safe, keep motivated, keep positive, choose life, choose peace, choose love, not death, not apathy, not conflict. Choose life. Have a wonderful day ahead and keep well. Same place, same time tomorrow.